everyone, welcome back to Fact or Fictional. I'm your host, Veronica Belmont, and this is the show where we look at the amazing technology and science from your favorite TV shows, movies, video games, and comic books, and ask, is this really possible? And if not, why not? Last week we had my dear friend Jonathan Strickland on the show to talk about plasma guns. And for better or for worse, I don't think we're gonna have to worry about them anytime soon. But you guys had some feedback. Andy Dilbeck over on YouTube writes, a type of plasma weapon that is fact right now is the directed lightning gun, or electro laser. It uses a laser to create an ionized plasma channel to conduct bolts of electricity to a target, stunning or killing it. Not the same as a plasma cannon, but real and awesomely scary. So yes, plasma weapons. Let's keep them off the streets. But moving on to today's topic, did you guys see the Discovery documentary about mermaids called The Body Found? Well, there is a sequel coming out called The New Evidence. And I'm a fan of mermaids, I have to say. Ever since I was a little kid, we've got The Little Mermaid, we have Splash, which was one of my favorite movies of all time. So all of this got me a little bit curious. So today we're going to be diving into a discussion on mermaids with scientist Karen Kalyamuk from the Exploratorium. Hi Karen, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Oh, I'm so pleased to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you do at the Exploratorium?
Well, I'm one of the staff scientists here, and I get to do so many different things. The easiest thing to say is that I'm a translator of science for the public to help give them personal and meaningful experiences.
So I was wondering, did you see the special on Discovery called Mermaids, The Body Found?
I must say that I did not, but I did my homework over the weekend and couldn't watch the whole thing, but I did find a couple of really plumb, dramatic reenactments of fictional events that were pretty awfully stunning.
Well, I happened to enjoy that special. It was a fake documentary, of course, but there were some interesting ideas within it that I wanted to discuss with you today. For example, the aquatic ape hypothesis. Is there any way that perhaps primates went back into the ocean and actually became mermaids?
That's a good question. There's really no scientific evidence to support that. It actually came up in 1947, but it got published in 1960 by Alistair Hardy over in the UK, who was a bona fide scientist, a plankton biologist, and really kind of languished because, again, there was no evidence. It was like a list of items that could have indicated, well, this might fit. So sort of cherry picking things that might support it. And one thing about a good hypothesis is that in science you should be able to make predictions about something that you might find in the future, and there's never been any sort of evidence found to support this hypothesis.
So where do you think some of these myths and legends came from? Were sailors just really drunk and seeing dolphins in the water?
Well, the first mentions of mermaids that we know about were from Assyria back in 1000 BC, so way back, where they had some folklore and written down about one of their goddesses who fell in love with a mariner and then accidentally killed him and was so distraught that she threw herself into a lake and became a mermaid. But what we've normally heard about is like in Christopher Columbus's time and other like Blackbeard's the pirates about mermaids, and well, they might have been drunk. Everyone thinks they were probably seeing dolphins or my favorite wild animal, manatees. But in addition to being drunk, we also have to remember that there's a lot of evidence for all sorts of things that can lead to hallucinations. In fact, it's known that visual monotony, such that might happen for months, even at a time, like on a sailing ship, can lead to hallucinations, sleep deprivation, dream deprivation, and even vitamin B12 deprivation, which is predominantly found in animal products, can all lead to psychosis, paranoia, and indeed hallucinations.
Is that why we think that perhaps mermaids tend to be female? I mean, we talk about mer people sometimes and mermen, but it seems like for the most part we talk about female mermaids. Is that one of the reasons, because they were just hoping that they'd be beautiful women coming to visit them from the ocean, or does it have to do with that goddess myth that you mentioned earlier?
You know, it could be a number of factors. Many cultures actually have mermaids or mermaid-like creatures in their culture. Sometimes they're benevolent, sometimes they're evil. The pirates believe they would bewitch them, steal their gold, and then sink them to the bottom of the ocean. But we do have mermen around. In fact, in Greek mythology, one of the big guns, Triton, he was a merman.
True.
He had the fish, he had the trident and the conch. And most cultures do actually include mermen. Many of them say that they're much uglier than the mermaids, which may be why they're not discussed, and also quite a bit wilder. So again, it varies by culture, and I think we also need to consider who's like doing the writing of these mythologies, and it could be that the men were certainly more fascinated with the women or wanted to blame their misfortunes on a woman, and hence the mermaid has come through in popular culture.
Gotcha. So we have a couple of fun questions from our audience. Hi Nguyen on Facebook wants to know, if mermaids did in fact exist, what type of anatomical properties would they have? Would they have lungs as well as gills? Perhaps a combination of the two?
Well, that's a very interesting question. If you look at the creatures that do live in the ocean successfully, we do have all the marine mammals, and so they will have a blowhole, so they're going to have lungs, and they've adapted to the aquatic existence. But then you have fish. You have fish that are much larger than the big whales, such as the basking sharks and the whale sharks that are humongous. They're like 40 feet long, and they just live on plankton, and they have gills. So I don't know, would it be a combination or not? You know, we already actually do spend time in the water, like in submarines and things like that, but I suppose it would be, we would have to kind of think about that, and it's a little bit tough since they don't really exist to suppose this.
And also, Kenya wants to know, this kind of goes on the same vein, do they lay eggs or do they have live young?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I would probably go with live young just because certain sharks, which are fish, do have a live young. Some types of them do. And also, since we may or may not stay as mammals, if we stayed as mammals, we would probably continue to have live young.
And finally today, Brian wants to know, are all mermaids compulsive hoarders or just the redheaded ones?
I don't know about that. I really don't know. I guess we'll have to go out there and find some.
So we are obviously going to be giving this one actually, I'm going to let you decide by watching Mermaids, the new evidence on the Discovery Channel, coming up this Sunday, May 26th at 8 p.m. Eastern. I love the first one. I can't wait to see the next one. Also, stay tuned for this Google Hangout that we are having on May 31st at 3 p.m. Pacific. And this is going to be with me, Phil Plait, Joe Hansen, Anthony Carboni, Jonathan Strickland. Some of our favorite scientists and technologists from previous episodes of the show are going to be on. We're going to talk about the latest summer blockbusters and all the topics that you guys want to talk about. So make sure that you RSVP. We'll put the link to the Google Plus event page on the post of this YouTube video, and join us. We'd love to have you. And as always, I want your input on the show. Let me know what you want us to talk about and who you want me to talk about those topics with. Until next week, I'm Veronica Belmont. Stay tuned for more episodes of Fact or Fictional every Friday right here on TechFeed.